Hey there, Pursuing Freedom friends and community. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm glad you're here. If it's your first time, welcome aboard. For all my friends that have been following for a while, thanks for your support. And I am very excited today to have Tanya Rooney with me, who is a bright light, a ray of sunshine, and a new friend of mine. We don't even know how we found each other, but we're kind of, I think, cyber stalking one another. And I just love everything about her message. So I'm going to start this episode by saying that maybe pause the show and go right now to follow Tanya Rooney on Instagram because everything she puts out is pure gold. And I felt like a bit of a weirdo because I was just loving everything. I love this, I love that, I love this. And then I was posting it on my stories, and she might have thought I was a little bit of a psycho, but it was okay because now we're new friends. And I was just on her podcast the other day called Tribe Builders. And there's just so much synchronicity here. So we're going to have a great show for you. Tanya is a real estate investor. She's an author, a coach, a flipper. She's done short-term rentals. She's currently getting a hotel up and running, a motel, sorry, a motel up and running, and so much more. So I don't want to waste any more of my words on her story. So with no further ado, Tanya, could you share a little bit about your backstory, how you got to where you are, and your future vision of impacting the lives of 10 million people, which we are going to start with right here on the Pursuing Freedom podcast community?
Awesome. Well, thank you for the invite, Aaron. I'm very excited. And I resonate hard with the cyber stalking somebody, and we call it cyber stalking, but now I suppose it's just like social media stalking. But it's always that weird thing when you're scrolling down and you're like, you kind of get into a rabbit hole and you keep scrolling, and then you're like, oh, I'm now liking posts from April of 2023. They're probably going to think that's weird.
Exactly.
So, at least I feel like that probably resonates with more than just me and you because it happens. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't realize I got that far down, but I just really liked the content. So I did the same thing with you. I did like, I'm like, oh, this is from Christmas. What were her and Tony up to? Because I
Love
think
it.
that's your husband's name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, freaking A. Okay. So hi everybody. I'm Tanya. I am from the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. I grew up in southern Minnesota and I've been doing real estate. It's really weird to say, but it's probably been like 15 years now, maybe even 16. And that's weird for me because I actually didn't consider actually the first 2/3 of my journey being in real estate. So I left college in 2008 and I didn't really know that there was all kinds of stuff going on in the economy. So I got a job for a big, huge company called CBRE. They're the largest commercial real estate company in the world. I started out on a shared services team and then I hopped over into project management, which means people came to me and got help with finding an architect, finding a general contractor, hiring a mover, getting furniture for their new space. And typically this was office industrial, maybe a dentist clinic here and there, but mostly that. And it's funny because I was probably in 6 or 7 years to CBRE when I got a little bit sick of the corporate life and the fact that I was dealing with a client on a weekend and it was really irritating and they wanted to save $2,000 on an $8 million project and stuff like that. It's just like that's like a normal thing and it's okay, but it's really stressful. So I was frustrated and that was kind of my domino. So I started talking to a couple of CrossFit friends and they're like, I think you should flip houses. So truly, like I started flipping houses because of all of that. It happened in I think it was 2017 because of that conversation, like I ended up buying a house maybe 3 months later and started doing some flips. And so my journey started out that way. And the reason that I say like I didn't feel like I was in real estate is because I actually was on a shared services team and then I was in project management. And I didn't consider that a real estate job because I didn't go to school for real estate, which was a really silly thing because most people don't go to school for real estate. I mean, that is a degree, but not necessarily one that everybody uses. And so I didn't consider that time that I spent at CBRE. I was there for about 9 years. I didn't consider that real estate until like I was actually doing my residential investing. Then I realized, holy crap, I'm in real estate and I now fast forward 6 more years. So now I've been in real estate for probably about 15, 16 years. And I cannot believe how much access I had to people, deals, analysis, like some of the coolest things, because CBRE is such a big company, and I didn't consider myself a real estate person. And I feel like I'm looking at you, Aaron, and thinking, holy crap, like the people that you have on the backside, like in your community, that's these people. It frustrates me now because now I still go to corporate real estate events with some of the people that I used to hang out with, and I've spoke at some of their, on their panels and stuff like that. And I think all of these people, all of these women in this room have access to so much real estate and so much money and so many deals, but they don't do any of those deals because they don't consider themselves a real estate person. Like, or if they do, they're like, I'm just a broker, I'm just a lender. It's like, actually, you have some of the coolest ins to the best things about real estate investing is because you have access to deals, you have access to money, you have access to people, you have access, like you already know how to underwrite. You're just doing it right now for other people. And this epiphany honestly happened last like 6 weeks. I was like, whoa, I truly had so much access to so many brokers that knew so many things of, about commercial real estate and stuff that I didn't really ever take advantage of.
It's so interesting you talk about that because I've been trying to diversify the content on the show for the last year or so because initially everything that we covered here on the show was focused around how to consistently get deals, get transactions, get paychecks, et cetera. And then what happens when you experience overwhelm and how do you scale a business? How do you hire? When do you hire? Putting systems in place, all these different things around really just running a transactional real estate business. But it
Mhm.
eventually occurred to me how many real estate professionals who are handling these transactions for others and then having the potential to have very healthy commission checks come in and then having no plan for their dollars and not actually taking advantage of the ability to build wealth through real estate investing as a real estate professional. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because in my own personal journey, we joked that we became accidental real estate investors when we found our second house before we had listed our first house. And we thought, we'll just put it on Craigslist. This is 2010. And we put it on Craigslist and it ended up being a rental property that brought in quite a bit of passive income. And then eventually it appreciated significantly and tripled in value from when we originally bought it to when we sold it several years later. And I remember that when that happened for me as a mortgage professional, how quickly I wanted to just scream it from the mountaintops to everyone I know, including my clients. And so then it allowed me to become a better professional with my client experience because I was able to have more high level conversations beyond the paycheck, beyond the transaction. And when you care about your client's ability to leverage this one investment, which for you is one paycheck, to now think beyond and say, what's your long-term plan for this property? And have you ever thought about this? And what about that? And you start to show up as an authority. Not only do you develop these long-lasting relationships that become repeat clients and referral sources for you, but you also don't get shopped anymore. And I think we're in a market now where real estate agents and lenders need to level up their authority, their knowledge, their expertise, and even their own personal experience in building wealth with real estate so that they aren't being shopped around, because that is a major complaint in the current market is that the consumers are fickle. They are not
Mhm.
loyal. And it's like, well, you're just a real estate agent or you're just an interest rate. You need to be more. So I love that you talk about this experience of having been in real estate, but not feeling like a real estate professional, but
Mhm.
in essence you were. So talk us through a little bit about the leap that you took, because sometimes when you start going down a journey of something new, like flipping homes and how that led to short-term rentals and how that led to you being in a motel, because you're somebody that is on a mission to grow and expand. And I think most human
Mhm.
beings are naturally inclined to do so, but they're scared. So can you talk to us about the journey as it unfolded and kind of how it's got to where you are today?
Yes. Rewind to like 2017. I started like we bought a house to flip it. We were done with that house within 3 months. We decided to buy another one, and it was like, okay, yep. So we had two or three flips at that point. Well, we had two. And then I remember in May of 2018 was when I was like, okay, if this is for real and we want to figure out how to do this, we now know we need to go figure out how to do more. Because if we're going to do this one at a time, I'm like not a one at a time person. Like I just don't know how to do that, I guess. So it's like, well, we should do a few of them, or we should do this at scale or at volume or whatever the heck that word is to you. So I started looking into masterminds. I was already following Brandon Turner at Bigger Pockets because because that's what I binged all summer after I was told, hey, you should try flipping. So I binged all kinds of bigger pockets and then just did. I bought the house. And then I had an accountability group at that point as well. So we were doing the Brennan Turner's, journal that now is like a bigger thing, but like that's how I started. And then I realized, okay, I have to find other people that are doing this because I don't necessarily know what I'm doing. I went to college for a certain thing and I learned all those things, but every single time I've tried something new, it's because other people are teaching me how to do it. You kind of stumble through. So I started flipping houses and then I started making phone calls to interview masterminds because I knew I was going to join a mastermind. So I interviewed a couple of them, and the guy that I did interview was a man named Bill Allen, and he has a company called Seven Figure Flipping. And I was like, cool. Like we did the interview. I told him I needed to talk to a normal person because it was a big investment. I was spending more than 10,000. I was spending like 10 or $15,000 on this group that was going to teach me how to do a lot of things, help me do it at scale. And I knew I was going to be able to surround myself with people that were already doing it. But I was like, I need to talk to a normal human, not the CEO of this company, because, that's different. So he put me in touch with a gal and she told me like, no, this is for real. Like, this is what we've done because we've been in this group, it puts you next to these people. She kind of explained, mastermind stuff. So I joined that group. And then, probably 8 months later or 6 months later, I was on a cruise with that same group. And we were like, Tanya doesn't have enough time. I was, working a 50, 60 hour a week job, in addition to flipping one or two houses at a time, trying to figure out how to do more sales. Like we were direct mailing to get off market deals. Like we were just doing all kinds of real estate stuff. And it was just so overwhelming. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the thing? So we left that cruise knowing, okay, Tanya's going to quit her job. So within probably 2 months, 3 months after that, like I quit my job and was able to go full time. And we were flipping houses. And then I feel like probably about another year, maybe even 6 months later, there was an issue where we were trying to get rid of a house and it wasn't selling for what we wanted it for. So one of my friends from that mastermind got on the phone with me and he's like, well, Tanya, have you thought about Airbnb? So he did Air DNA with me. He walked through it. And he's just like, even if you make a portion of this money, like it's going to be great money. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. So I stumbled into short-term rentals, which is now my jam. Like that's like now we have 5 properties and then we just boutique motel. So that's kind of the evolution, I guess, of how I got here. But a lot of it is just about these conversations that I have with people along the way that make me go, oh yeah, I should try this, or we should look at this, or, chasing other people and their dreams and like that kind of stuff. So I feel like it all came to a head. I was able to get out of my corporate job. I haven't had a job now for like 5 years. And now I just do real estate stuff. So yeah.
I have so many questions, but I want to acknowledge one thing that you said there is that you have conversations with people and then you have these ideas because we talk a lot in the conversations I have with coaching clients or colleagues, friends, et cetera, about this concept that, creativity is not born out of being super duper busy, 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 and trying to figure it all out on your own and being an island and being in your head and fear-based analytical brain, needing to have it all figured out because the solutions come out of the conversations. And so the more time you can spend in conversations with people and hang around people that remind you of your future, you will find yourself elevating by association faster than you could ever dream possible. And it's interesting what you said about, you found this mastermind, you looked into it, it was going to be like 10 or $15,000. And I was at a point in my career where I felt enough is enough at one point where I had been on the roller coaster of broke to burnout for years. I kept hitting my ceiling of personal capacity. I knew I needed a change. I didn't know how. And I too found a community that was going to cost me over $20,000 a year. And I was part of it for 3 years. And it completely changed my life from the perspective of
Mhm.
just, again, putting myself in the room with people that are on the same path or that are ahead of me in the game. But I have a question for you is that how did you overcome the fear of investing in yourself in this way? Because I feel like so many of us, that fear is kind of like a lack of belief in our ability to get from where we are to where we want to go because we don't know how to get there. And then we have a story of, well, once I get there, then I can afford to hire the coach or join the community or get the mentor, whatever. So it's scary. It's scary to invest ahead of the evolution or the transformation. How did you have the guts to do it?
So first of all, you've said a couple of words a few times, and it's because I know that you're a coach and you talk to people about this stuff all the time, and they use those words like it's scary, it's daunting, it's like I don't know what I'm going to do, I'm really nervous, and I think if you keep telling yourself stuff like that, you'll absolutely have a scary thing in front of you, a daunting thing in front of you, because your words make your reality. So if you keep thinking that, then of course like it's going to be scary. So I think I don't know when I discovered that. That was probably through coaching that I realized the words that I use, like that I coach in my head, that I literally hear and see myself saying like over and over and over again is like, oh my God, this is so daunting. Oh my God, I have so much to do. Well, that creates the reality of how I feel about whatever that thing is. So I think even when, I decided to go all in on, paying for the mastermind, it was to me, it felt like a no brainer. It was like, well, I've already made some money, so I already know how to do some of it. And everything else I need to learn is right there in front of me. And I have the people, I have the references literally that have told me this is the stuff that you will learn and that you can do. So to me, it's logical, even though like, it's still, I don't think I've ever had a problem investing in myself. Like I've spent money on coaches ever since I didn't, I've always loved being part of groups. Honestly, that's probably what everything comes back to is like, I pay for friends every freaking time, like everywhere in my life I feel like I pay for friends, and they become really really great friends. But even college, like I think back to the college, some of the stuff that I liked the most about college was like student government, and it was because I had a friend that was the president and he's like, hey, we need more senators, would you like to come and hang out? So that, like, I mean, meetings and being around people, like that's what I already got to do in college, and I've done it every single time I've like changed a career or changed the trajectory of where I'm going. So even at CBRE, it was like, oh, cool. I made friends. I joined groups. And then, I'm still friends with those people. Like it's networking. It just keeps building your tribe through the whole entire process. So even with this decision, it was like, well, I don't know how to do some of this stuff. I don't know how to have 5 flips going at once. I don't know how to raise money for 5 flips. I don't know how to raise money for 1 flip. Like I don't know any of these things. So it was like, well, it logically, I mean, honestly, we're all trained to like you learn that kind of stuff, and you typically would either experience it by doing it yourself or you learn by paying because school costs money. So it to me, it's the exact same thing. Like, I mean, all the certifications that everybody has in real estate, you have to pay to get those certifications because somebody is like teaching you. So in this way, I was just like, well, I already love groups. I love humans. I love communities. Communities are totally my jam. So I hopped into this group thinking, well, it's no matter what, I'm going to get some friends out of it. He told me he would give me money back if I didn't get anything out of it, but I just jumped in and it didn't cross my mind, I guess, like in the way that we already sold at least 1 or 2 flips. So we already had at least 20 or $30,000 sitting there. So it's like, okay, let's do this because we're going to learn more.
Well, I mean, I couldn't agree more with all of it. And the thing is that I'm part of a national community of women, as you know, that are high level entrepreneurs, investors, et cetera. And I spend time with people that are ahead of me in the game. And it's kind of wild what happens when I get home from one of these retreats that I'll attend, where I remember going to one of the first ones in 2021 thinking, what am I doing? Like, I don't know these people. This is so awkward. I can't believe I'm getting on a plane to some random house on the beach in Texas. And what was I thinking signing up for this and spending all this money? And then, I learned things just in that one retreat that ended up saving me tens of thousands of dollars or
Thousands of
making me
dollars.
tens of thousands of dollars. And it's like,
Mhm.
I couldn't have scripted that. I can't
Mhm.
need to know what I'm going to get out of it. But I found that there's just something, I think it was Jim Rohn that said, you're the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So choose
Mhm.
wisely. And it's not about necessarily graduating from other relationships, but it is about being intentional around, if I look at somebody who I consider to be on chapter 10 and I'm on chapter 1, instead of thinking it was probably easy for them, I'm thinking I want to know all their mistakes, where they messed up so I can get to their chapter 10 by my chapter 4. And it
Yeah.
is wild what comes from spending time with people that inspire you, energize you, are quote unquote ahead of you in the game, remind you of your
Mhm.
future, whatever. And I don't know about you, Tanya, but I also have this. It's probably the competitor in me from being, an athlete when I was a kid, or maybe just being the youngest of 5 kids and
Mhm.
having older siblings. But I kind of have this little like, well, if she can do it, I bet I
Huh.
could too. Or if he could do it, I bet I could too. I don't know. Like, do you have that too, where you're like, well, if if that's possible, then I need to figure out how to make that happen for me too.
Yeah, I do. And honestly, the further I get into real estate, the more I'm just like, well, if that fucking guy could do it, why the hell can't I? Like, I say that shit all the time to myself because it's true. Like, you meet these people that are even on stages and they're just normal fucking people. There is nothing special about, honestly, any of us. Yes, there are special people. Like, I'm not saying that, but there are truly, like, all of us have it in us. People love to give me excuses why they're not doing things. And people are careful around me because they know I'll keep them accountable. Like, I write, if somebody says I'm going to quit my job by February of 2025, it is going to be in my phone to remind them or to ask them in January, how's it going? And then in February, if they have a date, they will get a text message from me saying, oh my God, like, did you quit your job today? Like, how did that go? Because truly, all of us are capable of this shit. Like, it's just, it's risk level, tolerance, all of that stuff. But truly, all of us can do anything. Like, I can't all of a sudden be a basketball star at 6'5" because I'm 5 feet tall. There are physical things that I can't change, but most of the other stuff I am totally in control of in some way, shape, or form. I can change my mindset. I can change the people around me. You're totally right. Like, the people that you talk to every single day, if you talk to people that are just bitching and moaning about their husbands every single day, and those are the 5 text messages you get every single day, weird. You're going to have a weird relationship probably with your own husband because you're probably going to piss and moan about him too. But if you talk to people that aren't even talking about their husbands, that are talking about, oh my God, I think I'm going to start this business, or hey, this is the hiring issue that I'm having this week, you're growing with those people because you're like, okay, I need to know that information for when I have to hire somebody, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So I feel like we're in control of all of those things we put around us. If we want to, where we want to live, who we want to hang out with, all of those things, which influence how we act and influence what those goals are and influence like where we're going with everything.
I want to talk a little bit about your podcast and the fact that it's called Tribe Builders. So this is also very, very
Woo!
funny to me because when I figured out how to break through my own insecurity and limiting belief and create
Mhm.
authentic and consistent growth in my business, I did so by doing what I call build a tribe of trusted local service providers. And you alluded to it when you were in the commercial real estate world about having all these resources available for your clients. And so I went on to teach this strategy to real estate agents as a mortgage lender. That's how I built relationships, was by teaching. And then inevitably that became the content of my book. And I have this worksheet that I provide to people. And it's literally called the Build Your Tribe worksheet. And your podcast is
Yay!
called Tribe Builders. And I just there's too much about you and me that is kismet. But talk to me about how you came to starting your podcast and how you came up with the name and what your vision is for the future, where you see yourself making an impact on the world.
A few years ago, I have I typically have a coach at any given time. I probably don't technically have one right now, but I was working with a coach like every other week. We would chat about a couple of things. So in the beginning, we had to dig deep, you had to get quiet, Tanya, keep breathing, try to like get everything out of your head. And that takes 10 or 15 minutes because mine runs rampant. She had asked me like what I wanted, and I was like, and once everything was clear, I was very clear, like, oh, I want to impact people. And she's like, well, how many people? And I said 2 million. And she's like, is that really the number? And I said, no, I think it's 10 million. And she's like, whoa, okay. So we did all kinds of work that day with all of that. And I'm just like, oh my God, but I don't know how the heck I'm going to do that. She's like, don't worry about it. Like, you need to calm back down, Tanya. Just sit with the fact that this is your goal and this is really what you want. And it's so interesting because I said those words and everything felt right. And I don't know how to explain that. It's so woo woo, but it just felt like, okay, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't, and I still to this day will not tell you I know how to get there because I don't. I've never impacted 10 million people, but I know people are alive who have done stuff like that. So now, like, honestly, that was a few years ago. So my journey has kind of just been like, okay, we're going to just go forward. And I've been picking things up along the way. So it's, I'm in the right rooms at the exact right time. And that's what I really, really believe. If I feel like in the back of my head, something saying you need to go to that retreat or you need to go to that event, it's because I need to go to that thing. I remember one of the first times I did realize I was in the right spot at the right time. I was listening to somebody speak on stage at Flip Hacking Live in San Diego in probably like 2017 or 2018. And I'm not a crier, but I couldn't stop crying. I like profusely cried, and he was talking about basketball. I don't even care about basketball. But his story just resonated. And the reason I now know, like, now I can reflect back and be like, it's because I was in the right room at the right time. That was exactly where I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be flipping houses. I was supposed to be learning how to do all that stuff. And then I can jump through, like, there's just all kinds of these little indicators that have keep pushing me. So I've joined a couple of different masterminds. I'm in a short-term rental one right now. I've been in a mindset one. So we literally just talk about like how you get over stuff like this and how do you have aligned action. So we did all of this. And then earlier this year, it happened again. I was watching somebody on stage, and he was just saying some stuff. And it's funny because one of my mentors, she doesn't know I'm her mentee, but is Mel Robbins, and I'm obsessed with her. And earlier this year, I was asking one of my friends, I'm like, hey, like, how did Mel Robbins become that? Like, how did she get there? And she told me how to research this stuff. And I was like, okay, like, I think I'm actually going to look into this because I wanted to know like how Glennon Doyle got there, or how did Mel Robbins get there? How did Tony Robbins get there? Like, how did, Brene Brown get there? And this man was on stage at this event earlier this year, and he starts talking about Mel Robbins. And I'm like, so obviously my ears perk up. And he's like, yeah, like I helped get her there. And I was like, holy shit, the universe is talking again. Because this to me is what happens in my life, is I like surround myself with people and with events that do shit like this. So he starts talking about Mel Robbins, and I'm just like, well, I'm going to hire that guy, obviously. So now I'm working with this guy, and that's honestly where like some of the tribe builder stuff has come from. Because I've talked so much about, I love my community. I've built this community that's so cool. Like, I love that I don't know how to do something, and it doesn't matter because I probably know four people that know how to do that thing. Like, I don't have to know everything. That's the beauty of real estate, is there's so many ways to make money and so many ways to do things. And there's really not a right or wrong way to do things, unless it's like you're being a crook, so don't do that. But otherwise, like, you can make it fit your life in whichever way you need it to. And because of that, I've been put into these places to make these relationships. And I just know that I love that people utilize their communities the way that they do. And it's so fun to talk to people about that. And I love sounding the horn, sounding the bell on the great community members that I have that are around me, that help me with things, that show me how to do things. So Tribe Builders is really just surrounding stuff like that. Is like, how do I impact people? How do I teach somebody else that they need to find their three people? They don't have to build a business alone, because entrepreneurship is so lonely. Like, I'm a very extreme extrovert. So leaving a corporate office and then going to working solo has been really hard for me. So I have peers all over the country that I talk to every single day about short-term rentals, about real estate, about mindset stuff. Like, truly, I'm plugged in with, I get 100 text messages a day. And it doesn't, like, that's for me. It doesn't mean it's for everybody, but I have my people that help me. Like, when I have a problem in business, I know who I'm going to ask. Like, I have a peer group that's going to help me how to get through a best practice, how to like show me what to do, or they've just paved the path. And I think everyone in an entrepreneurial role needs to do stuff like that. Surround yourself with people that already know how to do it. Like, why would you said it, like, how do I not do it in 10 years? I want to do it in 4. And I miss that, getting sued, because I've got friends who've been sued. So it's like, you go to them and you get their lessons and then you just learn it. Like, you shortcut it.
You said so many different things there. And
I know, I'm
one of the
sorry.
things that there's a quote, I've shared this on the show before, but it's a Steve Jobs quote that you can't connect the dots looking forward. And actually, Mel Robbins posted something on her Instagram one time that said, you don't wait for confidence to take action. You take action and the confidence builds. And you also did a reflection there of looking back and seeing how these dots connect. And that's kind of along the lines of the Steve Jobs quote. And it's interesting because so often we're so afraid to take that first step because we want to see it all play out. We want to know how it's all going to play out. But the reality is, if you look back and reflect, you can see how much of it was unscripted and unsolicited. Even you and I, the stars align, our paths cross, and here we are with a new relationship, and it's extraordinary and it's vibrant and it's energized, and I get energy from you and I get inspired, and then I take that energy and I transmit it into my next interaction of my day, and I show up different. I show up better because somebody has just infused me with a jolt of energy, right? And it's like, not even just that, but if you look back on your clients, you didn't conjure them up in your brain and then go hunt them down and make them become your client. It unfolded in the most organic way possible, right? This is the thing that we all need to ask ourselves is, where do we want to go? And even though we don't know how, can we look back and realize how far we've come and recognize that we didn't have it all figured out when we took the first step then, and we're never going to have it all figured out. And we're not
Yeah.
even really going to get it wrong, or we're not going to get it right. We're just going to keep going and learning and improving and pivoting. So it's really cool to
Yeah.
hear that you're doing that. And also, I'm excited for your podcast because my suspicion is that with this national community you're a part of, we're now all going to get to meet those people through conversations you get to have with them and air them live through
Yeah.
your podcast. So I'm super
Yeah.
excited to see the episodes continue to come out because I know you've got a lineup of incredible guests. If
Mhm.
folks want to find you besides the podcast, if they want to follow you, get in touch with you, what's the best way
Mhm.
to do so?
Tanya Rooney MN on Instagram is probably the spot that I'm the most. And my first name is spelled Tanya and MN from Minnesota. And then I have a website, tanyarooney.com. We're trying to figure out what that needs to start looking like because now I have a podcast and I realized recently it's not even on there. But yeah, I hang out the most on Instagram. That's a place that you could follow me. Like I answer those messages and then there's coaching calls and stuff. Like if somebody wants to pick my brain, they can via a coaching call on my website. Mm,
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your energy here today. And
mm,
it's just been inspiring to hear your journey and your how your curiosity leads you to putting yourself in the rooms and having the
mhm.
conversations that unlock the next great idea and how you just continue to chase that contribution to the world. So I have no doubt you're going to make an impact on 10 million lives. And however many are listening today, you've already made an impact, I'm sure. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. And anybody listening, please reach out to me and Aaron or Aaron, whatever, and tell us if something, resonated with you because we love hearing that. It helps us keep going.
I could not agree more. I was going to say the same thing is that I love getting feedback. What did you like? What was your
Mhm.
takeaway? What do
Uh-huh.
you want to hear? And if you're finding value in this podcast, make sure you leave that 5-star review wherever you possibly can,
Yeah.
because it helps us continue to attract these amazing guests like Tanya and help this content get found and help you and everyone else out there build a life you truly don't need a vacation from. I love you. I appreciate you. And I'll see you next time.